Hey, it's Felicia Pride, head honey and honey child, and host of It's Good Over Here. Many of you may know, but I started as an author before transitioning to writing for the screen. And all my life, I wanted to write romance, which I've been able to do in my film and TV career. Shout out to Really Love and Tender and Look Back at It and Bel Air. But I never got a chance to do so as an author until now. I'm so excited to announce the upcoming release of my first romance novella entitled Come Close. It's also Honey Child's first foray into publishing fiction. You can pre-order Come Close now on Amazon. Here's a quick synopsis. After years toiling in Hollywood, Amaya Ellis is finally directing her first feature film in her hometown, unexpectedly reuniting her with Kyrie Tate, her high school sweetheart, whom she hasn't seen in decades. He wasn't just the one, he was the standard. But ambitions, dreams, and the world got in the way, and their relationship fell apart. They lost touch, moved on, or so they thought. As fate brings them together, they relive their own movie of their past love and find themselves creating a new story. I love the fact that you have some steamy love scenes. Talk about like the importance of that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I'm still sexually active. I'm married. I'm happy, whatever. Like most of my friends who are married are still having sex.
Yeah.
At least they were at 40. But you don't turn it off. I think people want us to turn things off, like especially when you're married. It's like you're on lockdown now. Like you can't be a fully sexual being. Now you're someone's wife or you're someone's mother.
Welcome, honeys in training, and all of those who love us. I'm Felicia Pride, writer, filmmaker, and founder of media and production company Honey Child, where we tell stories that speak to Black women of a certain age with love. And you are tuning into one of our things, It's Good Over Here. It's Good Over Here is your ticket to the delicious adventures in Honeyland. It's a celebration of how good it can get on the other side of 40 across career, life, and love. In each episode, we offer inspiration and insight on aging boldly because, honey, it is good over here. Hello, honeys. I'm super excited about today's episode. My guest is Robinne Lee, an actor, writer, and producer with a decades-long career in Hollywood. You may know her from Deliver Us from Eva, Hitch, 7 Pounds, Being Mary Jane, the 50 Shades sequels, and so much more. She's also the author of the book, The Idea of You. This novel came out in 2017, picked up steam during the pandemic, and when the film adaptation starring Anne Hathaway premiered on Prime Video in May, it instantly became the streamer's biggest rom-com debut ever. Well, guess what, honey? We're going to get into all that today. We're going to talk about all the juicy adventures Robinne has had on the other side of 40. So thank you so much for joining me today on It's Good Over Here, Robinne.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, we're super, super excited. I actually want to take it back a little bit. I want to take it back because you've had a really, really interesting career. I don't know if many people know, but you are an Ivy League honey. You have a law degree from Columbia, a psych degree from Yale. How did you transition into acting and entertainment?
It's a very good question. There are two things I've always loved doing, and it's been acting and writing since I was little. And they kind of were just like my extracurriculars, and it was something that I did for fun. And my parents were, while they were very supportive, they were kind of like, they're immigrants, you know, they're from Jamaica, and they had this mentality that we didn't come here for you to be an artist. And so it's always about education and academics. And so that's kind of the route I was going on. And I just kind of had this like burning desire, like I wasn't fulfilled if I was not creating, if I wasn't doing something artistic. And I went to Yale, and on the car ride up, my dad said, "Don't think we're sending you to Yale to study drama." So that was,
oh, wow.
So I had to
it was like, I want you to know, be clear.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I kind of like, the options were always going to be like law, medicine, or business. And when I graduated from college, it was kind of like, okay, what are you going to do now? And, you know, I dabbled in a bunch of different things, but yes. So I made a deal with my parents that I'd apply to law school if I could start pursuing acting. And I did. And I was in New York and auditioning. And the same time I started law school, I'd done this little independent film called Have Plenty. And
oh, yes.
literally picked up the first week of law school.
First of all, I love how you say little film. What was that like? It seems like sort of like your first time out.
First feature I did, first indie feature. I'd done maybe a couple commercials beforehand, and I'd done some theater, but I booked it through Backstage, which was this, this local, this like newspaper for casting. And it was this tiny little thing. And, you do these projects and you don't know what's going to happen with them. And, but we had a fun time on set, and we gelled with the cast, and it was an interesting script, and that was just different. I wasn't seeing anything like that at that time. And it was really lovely that Chris Chereau, who was the writer, the director, and the star, had come up with this idea and to make this little film. And so we did it, and we, you kind of do it and you forget about it and you hope for the best. And it took about a year for him to edit it. And it was literally picked up my very first week of law school at the Toronto Film Festival. But I was a full-time student in New York. And so I did double duty. I was doing both of them at the same time. And for me, it was extraordinary because it allowed me to be very balanced. Like I feel like, when I was just acting, all I could think about was acting. And then I looked at all my law school friends, and they were just obsessing over schoolwork, which, it's apropos, but I felt like the neuroses was like, you could feel it. You could feel the tension and the stress. And because I had these two demanding careers at the time, or endeavors at the time, it really allowed me to have a great life balance. It's like, okay, I'm only going to put so much work into this, and then I have to move on to the next thing. Like, I'm going to work really hard in this audition, and then I'm going to forget about it because I've got to go back to school and have all the schoolwork done. Or like, I'm going to do my best in this project. I'm going to read it and do my outlines and know all my cases, and now I have to go and do the acting thing. So it was a really nice balance to be in law school and acting at the same time. And it was, I feel like that's been that always has worked out best for me. When I'm just focused on acting is when I start to like spin out of control.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about how that has manifested itself over your very, very long career. How have you been able to find ways to have that balance between acting and something else, and, and getting to that something else, which was writing books?
Right. Well, acting is very much, it's a roller coaster. There's definitely a thrill when you're doing it. I definitely feel like, I'm with my people. I'm really happy. I love to express myself. I'm a creative person. I'm artistic. I love being on a set. I love everything about a production, usually, when it's going well. But there's you can be waiting in between for a very long time for the next project. And it's so much rejection. It's so much rejection. And it can really chew away at your soul and your self-confidence, and, just the idea of like who you are as a person. You're wondering like, if I made the right choice, and why am I doing this? There's so many other things I can do. I have a great education. I have like, I took the bar exams. I'm admitted to the bar in New York. I could be a practicing attorney and making, I guess, right out of school, 6 figures. Like I could be doing many other things. Like, what is it about this world that attracts me to it? Why do I feel like I have to do it? And I think it was important for me to have other things, like to have, I got married, I had kids, I focused on them, and writing was always something I did for fun for myself. And I feel like my friends who don't have other things, they're the ones that like, I see the stress of when you're not working. And you shouldn't get too complacent when you're not working. You should be wanting the next gig if you want to make it in this business. But at the same time, so much of it's out of your control, and Hollywood is really great for chewing people up and spitting them out.
Honey, talk about it. I am feeling that right now, where I'm seeing people that I know like being eaten alive by this business. So I want to talk about, you said you were writing was something that you did it for fun. How did you make the transition for it to be something that you were doing, taking more seriously, or professionalizing? Acting on your ideas is a form of self-love. And when I decided to write the Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal, it was with you in mind. Storytellers with stories inside of you that you need to get out into the world. But life, fear, uncertainty has a way of leaving us stuck. But no more. It's time to reclaim our creative practice and get unstuck. The Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal can help you get back on creative track. 30 days of dynamic prompts, exercises to stimulate creativity, alongside motivational quotes, journal pages, and more. If you're ready to create again, get your copy of the Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal today at creativecomeback.com. That's creativecomeback.com. Because it's never too late to become the artist you always wanted to be.
So I guess I wrote my first book when I was in ninth grade. I was 14. It was 884 pages, handwritten. I'd never had anyone.
It was a saga.
Yeah, it was a saga. I never had any intentions of sharing it with anyone.
Yeah.
And then I wrote another one after that, and it was 1,200 pages, and I didn't even.
And what were these books about at 1,200 pages?
You don't even. They're like coming of age story. I mean, I was like 14 one and 16 in the
Wow.
other. So like,
you had a lot to say.
Or things I wish were happening to me,
Yeah.
And then I guess I took some time off, and in law school I started working on a book, and I did like 200 pages, and then I dropped it. And then when I had my first son, my first child, when he was 1 year old, I started writing a book, and I thought, you know what, this is it. This is going to be the one that I publish. I'm going to finish it. But I'm going to make it. And I spent 6 years working on it, and I couldn't get it published. And I went into like a 2-year kind of funk, like just not writing at all. And it's like back to acting and being a mom and a wife and all the other things. And then I got the idea for The Idea of You. And I was like, I think this could be a book that people will want to read. I think I could make it irresistible so that they have to buy it. Someone has to buy it. But I didn't want to waste 6 years of my life working on something and then find out again that it's like, sorry, we've got something like that, or we're not interested, or whatever. So I wrote it as quickly as I possibly could. And I was like consumed writing around the clock. The book takes place over the course of a year. And it starts in April 2014, which is when I started writing it. And I was never more than 3 months behind time when I was writing it. And I finished it in 15 months. So I finished writing a draft that went out to an agent in 15 months. The first agent I sent it to loved it, wanted to represent me. He spent about 3 months doing notes or so. And then I spent about 3 months or so doing his edits. And we sold it within 2 weeks.
That's amazing. So where did the idea come from? Because this is a book about a woman of a certain age finding love in a younger man, not even just finding love, but finding passion and zest and energy. Like, where did that idea come from? Because also, I love that you were like, I'm going to write something that people want to read, but sometimes society tells us that they don't want to read about older women pursuing their desires.
I mean, I think it's a theme. I've always liked younger guys. I think it's a theme with me. Like the book I was reading in law school, I think there was like a 12-year age gap or a 13-year age gap, and then I just dropped it. And then the book that I worked on for 6 years, there was a 5-year age gap.
Wow.
And then, but I couldn't sell, and that was like pseudo autobiographical. So it's like go big or go home. So it's like, what if I had a 20-year age gap? Let's see. Obviously, I was getting older. I couldn't write a 20-year age gap when I was 30 because that would have been a little like freaking twisted. But at 40, you can write a 20-year age gap and you could still be legal.
Yeah.
So I had this. I was kind of joking around with my husband. It's like, what if I think about leaving you and the 2 kids and running off and with a guy in a band, but he's like half my age. Like, how would you feel about that? And he just laughed and he's like, but you know what? He's like, that would make a great book. And the second he said it, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is a book that I know how to write this book. Like, like this is the book I've been writing for 20 years, but like different versions of it.
And I think that's what's so brilliant about it is that, I felt like it was the perfect setup for a older woman, younger man, because he has the wherewithal to romance her in a way that is really mature and aspirational and ambitious. So I just thought that the boy band was brilliant. Was brilliant.
Oh, thank you. I knew that if I just made him in a band, it would have been like, yeah, that's nice, whatever. We've seen that before. I mean, but a boy band was like, we've got so much baggage that we associate with boy bands. And we kind of we look down on them and we discredit their artistry, and we assume they're made, that we assume they're like puppets and they're made for like little girls. And I knew that if I could make it a believable band and make him a guy in a band who's like proud of what he does, but at the same time, like, this is not what I'm going to do forever. And I realized like the limitations of this, and just look at it really seriously. And what's it like being stuck in that situation? When I was still in college, I started a company with a girlfriend of mine, and we were managing singing groups, and we were managing this girls group. And the group was produced by one of the New Kids on the Block, who were really big at that time.
Oh, absolutely. They were huge.
So I got to know them.
KOTB.
Yeah, and KOTB. I got to see them in their element, and I got to be around a really successful boy band, and the following the cars and like jumping on top of the van and like things like that. Like that kind of insanity is really singular. You don't see that. I mean, like, so I kind of really wanted to play all that up.
I love that. And I also think like, bringing out the teenage girl in your main character, which I just thought it was so brilliant of how that all worked together. Okay. So you have this book, you wrote this novel, and then you're minding your business, and then TikTok is basically kind of rediscovers your book and it blows up. Tell me about that.
It didn't feel like a rediscovery to me or a blowing up. It kind of felt like my book had a small launch. It was a small deal, but I knew it had what it took to be a big book. And I knew it was just a matter of enough people hearing about it. And so I kind of helped to cultivate, and I thought this is going to have to be word of mouth. And every single reader that gets in touch with me, who reaches out to me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook and just like, I loved your book, I'm going to engage with that reader, and she's going to tell a friend, and they're going to tell a friend. It's just going to grow and grow and grow. And that's what happened. I mean, that started, and the book came out in June of 2017. And it was just a very slow. And by the time the pandemic rolled around 3 years later, it reached a critical mass, and we were all stuck at home looking for entertainment. And so kind of really, I wouldn't say it doesn't feel like it blew up, because it feels like it was such a gradual progression. It's like, I know how it happened because I respond to every single message I get.
Yeah. Well, what I love about that too is that, especially on Honey Child, we talk about the importance of sharing the work, but also that something is new to someone who hasn't heard of it. Right. So just because it came out in X year, because I used to work in book publishing, I worked in marketing and book publishing, and the ethos was 6 weeks. You give a book 6 weeks, that's it. And I'm like, and I remember I was right out of college being like, but what if it takes longer? Just simple questions about how can we extend the life of a book. So to hear you talk about the long tail of like, look, I just kept responding, I kept sharing, and then it reached that critical mass. I think it's really important for sure.
Right.
So how did the adaptation come about?
Gabrielle Union, who I'd worked with on Deliver Us from Eva, had introduced me to this producer, Kathy Schulman, who was looking for projects that were women-led, stories that were women-driven and that would appeal to women. And she thought it would be a great match. And so we ended up giving it to Kathy. I mean, when the pandemic happened and the book started really getting a lot of attention, that's when Annie came on, and then we made a film.
I love that. So how was that, like, just that experience of being on the red carpet from a different perspective, from a producer perspective, from a, originator, creator role?
Gosh, it was very surreal. I feel like it's just very weird. These are like, this is a story that I came up with in my head and labored over, and these characters I just dreamt up, and suddenly they're real actors who are filling these roles, and people are responding to them. And it's something that, that's like, it's a huge piece of me. And it's so weird to see a piece of you get kind of taken away and become its own thing. And the world has a different relationship with it than you have with it, and perhaps how you see it, and outside of you. I'd walk the carpet and people had no idea who I was. And I was like, none of you would be here. None of you would be here if it wasn't for like me. Like someone told me that when you see the credits roll, know that all those people have a job because of you.
It's so interesting you say that, because the first feature that I wrote, I had a similar sort of feeling where I was not ready for what it meant for someone to then buy it and then take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when I got to set and saw all the trucks and saw all the people there, I said, oh, everybody may not know what I know. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I know that they are here because of a seed of an idea. Yeah. I feel that.
It's very, I keep using the word surreal, but I can't think of another word to describe it. It's this very weird thing because it becomes something else entirely different than maybe what you intended. And you just kind of have to accept like it's your baby. It's gone out into the world, and you know what I mean? And it's
theirs now.
A lot of things to it's going to mean different things to different people.
Well, I want to talk about some of the reception just in terms of women over 40 seeing themselves in this story. What have been some of the messages, some of the responses that you received about that?
So I like to just focus on the positive things. Like even as they're coming in, like when women reach out to me, and that's one of the things is like I told you, I cultivated this kind of fandom for the book because women were reaching out to me the entire time. I mean, since, someone every day, there's someone new. Thank you so much. I feel like you see me, or like, I got divorced because of you. And I'm like, wait, hold on. But I'm like, it's a good thing, like I realize like I'm worthy of passion and love and being respected, and someone who cares about what I do for a living, who cares about what's interesting to me, and who's going to see me as a sexual being, as a full person, and not just, oh, she's like the trophy wife, or she's just the mother of my kids, or, she cooks our dinner and cleans the house. Like he sees like, I'm worthy of someone who sees everything. That was really important to me, that women see that in themselves. Because I think when you're writing, you're trying to tell one woman's story, but Celine's not a real person. It was not like I was writing someone's biography. Like I put her out there so that other women will see themselves in her and kind of see that there's more to life than we sometimes think there is. There's like a second chance, there's a second act, there's like a third act of the fourth, like you're not washed up at 40.
At all. And part of that includes sexuality. I love the fact that you have some steamy love scenes. Talk about like the importance of that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, I'm still sexually active. I'm married. I'm happy, whatever. Like most of my friends who are married are still having sex.
Yeah.
At least they were at 40. But you don't turn it off. I think people want us to turn things off, like especially when you're married. It's like you're on lockdown now. Like you can't be a fully sexual being. Now you're someone's wife, or you're someone's mother, or someone's, employee or employer, or whatever it is. Like you get put into a box, and it's like, but that's not who we are. Like we are these like full women, and we're multifaceted, and we contain multitudes. And part of that also is a lot of us are sexy, sexual beings, and sensitive and sensual beings. And I thought it was important to see it. I didn't want to shy away from it. Like I wrote the book as if Celine was writing something down in her diary. Like she was tracing this story that had happened to her and kind of laying it out as it happened, and a little bit in hindsight. And when I write my journals, I'm not editing for like ratings, like when I'm falling in love, it's like, it's a full package. It's everything. It's like, he said this, he did that, he read this book, he sent me this gift, and then this happened in bed. And for me to be like, shh, I'm not going to say anything. Like, I'm an 8-year-old and my mom might find my journal. Like,
yeah, but what I love too is that you address the fear, right? She is afraid of this love. She's afraid of giving into her desires and what she wants. And we talk a lot about that with our Honey Child community of like, first of all, your desires are enough. They are valid, and it is okay to embrace them no matter what they are. Why was that important to really kind of go there about the fear of it all?
Oh goodness. I think it's important to realize that we're real. We're flawed at times. We have all these different emotions, and they can coexist, and doesn't make us not necessarily not good people. It just makes us real. And I feel like so often we're trying to be like the strong woman, or, like the power woman, whatever it is. You're kind of, we have these icons. We feel like we should hold ourselves up to that. And real women feel. And I don't ever want to be the kind of person who doesn't feel. Like I'm very aware of when I'm hurting or when someone close to me is hurting, or I can turn on TV and see someone hurting, like, and feel. And part of that's also being an actor, is that you're supposed to be very in touch with your emotions and be able to access them easily. And so I guess it's kind of a gift, but I wanted to share that on the page.
I love that. So I want to talk a little bit about your own sort of adventures. You embarked on in addition to writing a book and putting in the work to have that book reach the success you knew it was going to have, and then seeing that book on screen, you then, I feel like, took the sort of romantic adventure we all think about, which is moving to Paris. How did that come about? And just talk about, from an artist perspective, Paris is such a place that has such a legacy within art. But what was that decision, and what was that like move like?
It was extraordinary. It's the adventure of a lifetime. It's what I call it. I've always been a Francophile since I was very young. My mom's brother's wife, so my aunt, they're not divorced, but my aunt is French Canadian, and so I had cousins who were half Jamaican, half French Canadian, and spoke fluent French, and we'd spend a lot of time with them, visiting them in Montreal. And I was always like fascinated. There was this like secret language they could speak that I couldn't. That was like not. I was like, what is that? Like how? And so from the time I was really little, I was like, I want to speak like Dominic and Eileen speak. Like I want to speak French. And so I took it in school, and I just fell in love. I was in love with the sound of it. I was in love with the language. The more I learned about the culture, it just seemed romantic and sensual and lovely. And I'm an actress. And so the film, like I love French films, and there's just stories, and I love fashion. I love food, like everything and art, and like everything I like, the French were like experts at, like doing far better than we were in the US as far as I was concerned. And I was like, that's where I want to be. Like, that's what I want to do. And so I spent my junior year abroad here in Paris, and it was the best year of my life. And I told myself one day I'm going to move back, and it took a couple of decades to make it happen. But I made it happen. Like, I think even when my husband and I were first dating, and I told him, like, one day I would really love to move to Paris. How would you feel about that? And he spoke no French, whatever. He's like, yeah, I'd be up for that. I'd be up for that adventure. And so I raised a kid speaking French in LA, of all places. Like I spoke only French to them when they were little, and then I got them into like French Mommy and Me and toddler programs and day camps. And then I found a French speaking nanny, and we did all these things to kind of cultivate. I got tons and tons and tons of French books and videos and CDs. And then once they were old enough to travel, we'd come here every summer and let them kind of feel the culture and get to know it. It's like, one day we're going to move here. We just want you to be prepared. And it was during the pandemic that it was kind of like, you know what? Life is not promised. Tomorrow's not promised. We keep saying we're going to do this. What are we waiting for? Like, we're not getting any younger. Let's do it. And then there are a bunch of things. It's like, it was George Floyd and BLM, and it's like the election, and then January 6th. It's like, I'm ready to get out of here for at least a little while. And I've always said I wanted to do it. Why not? What are we waiting for? And then, and during the pandemic, all my auditions went online. And so I was booking movies and TV shows from my living room. And I was like, my living room can be anywhere. Like, why are we in LA? And we came here for a summer and like tried it out in summer 2021. Just as things were starting to open up, we came for 5 weeks and just lived here to see how it would work. My husband has his own business, and all his like clients and people he was dealing with are back in LA. So it's like, or in New York. And like, how is it doing like your meetings and all that stuff at nighttime? Like, can we make it work? And we did. And I got a lot of writing done, because other things too. I was having a hard time writing. After The Idea of You, I had a good 3 years of really bad writer's block, and things started just happening in Paris, like creatively. And so we said, we did it. We toured a school. We found a school we liked. The kids liked it, and they got in, and we said goodbye to our school and our community, and we packed up everything we had and we left.
I love that. That is, we have a lot of honeys who want to move abroad. because of many of the reasons that you mentioned. But I love that. So it sounds like you're in a creative space. You're in the place that you always wanted to be. So what is next for you? What's upcoming? What are you excited about?
I'm finishing up my next book.
Yes.
I'm very excited about that. It has been a long time coming. I've been very, so as I said, I had the writer's block for a good 3 years, and then I've been working on this one for over 5 years. And so it's taken some time. It's not a sequel to The Idea of You. It's not any way related, but I think fans of The Idea of You will find something in here.
Is it romance?
I don't know how much I can give away.
I had that feeling, but I was like, let me just see how much we can get. Well, we're excited nonetheless, and we will wait for you for sure. So this is the segment of our show that we like to call pleasure principle. Mm-hmm. Two of our words at Honey Child are desire and pleasure, and we define them very expansively. Anything that we want and anything that makes us feel good. So tell us one of your deepest desires at this age.
Oh, goodness. I think I would have.
And it can be big or small. It doesn't even have to. It can be. We've had people say that they want to take cooking classes. They want to see about actually becoming a professional chef.
See, this is the beauty of living here. Is I feel like I'm living my dream. Like everything I want to do, I'm doing it. So like, what am I looking forward to? I mean, I really do. Like, I feel like I do walking tours. Like historical walking tours. I did just last weekend. I did a wine and chocolate and champagne tasting. I mean, like I travel to different countries for art festival. Like, I mean, everything is so close to Paris. Like Europe, I'm saying it's just like, it's just easy to travel. Like I think I just want to continue to live like this. I do feel like I walk down the street. Like, is this a dream? Is this a dream? Can it all be taken away? And my desire is to hold on to it for as long as I possibly can, like, and just enjoy it in the moment and be like, we may not always be here. We may have to return to the States, or, like my kids might want to return to the States as adults and we have to be near grandkids or whatever it is. But for now, I'm here, and it gives me so much pleasure to be here every day. As a gift.
I love that. And I love that. It sounds like you're able to be so present, which I love.
So present, much more present than I ever was in Los Angeles. I feel like LA, I don't know if it's the sun, whatever, it deadens you. Like I used to feel very alive in New York. I'm from New York, but in LA, I didn't. And I think it's being in your car and you feel like you can go the whole day without really interacting with people. And like in Paris, you're brushing up. In New York too, you're brushing up against stranger. You know what I mean? Like you have to deal with people, and it forces you to get out of yourself and get out of your shell and be aware of everything and be present in a way that I didn't feel present in Los Angeles. Even for all the yoga and the whatever, I didn't always feel present.
I think also it's just a bubble. It is I think the business is so insidious in like every aspect of your life. Even when you think you're at yoga, there's something that's just always ever present and hanging over things. Yeah. And it makes it.
I like to write in like cafes, restaurants, whatever. And, you'd be in LA and I could hear like 3 different conversations going on. Exactly. And I know exactly what they're talking about. Either the people they're talking about or read about the deal or like
they're talking about the show that didn't go.
Like, get it. Right. Like in Paris, first of all, they're speaking another language. So I can tune them out really easily. But even when I do understand that they're not talking about my business. They're not talking about, it's very rare that I feel like I have to say, I'm aware of everything that's going on in that way that I was in LA. And it made me like super, like hyper sensitive and like super overly conscious, subconscious, whatever, conscious about everything. And it's kind of, I felt like I couldn't get away. I felt I just needed to be anonymous and be around people who didn't know me and I did not know, and I did not know anything about their lives. And that was I think that feeds me more as an artist too.
How have your desires changed on this other side of 40?
My priorities have shifted. I think what I thought would make me happy, I've had to reassess what it is and shift it so that I could be more in control. I feel like I was striving for things I really didn't have any control over, and having more control has allowed me to be much happier. And then just measuring what happiness is to me. Like I've a healthy family, healthy kids, great kids. I have a great relationship my husband, my parents are still healthy and alive. Like I have the things that matter.
And how do you practice self-compassion these days?
I don't know. How do I do? I think I'm gentler with myself, I guess. I'm not as hard on myself as I was in my 20s or my 30s. You have to, like, you're aging, right? So your body's not the same, your face isn't the same, your hair isn't the same. Like, you just have some of those things you have to let go and just be like,
right,
I'm doing fine. And so I think I'm just trying to hold on to the days I have that are good and knowing that appreciating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So these are kind of rapid fire questions. We call them our honey insights. Okay. The name of our show is It's Good Over Here. So tell us, what's something that is getting better for you right now?
I just feel like life is really good. I feel like my happiness is good. My writing is in a good place. I'm much more confident in that way. Writing is really weird. Like, and my acting, like I don't second guess myself as an actress, like the way I do as a writer, because I've been doing it for so long. Like if I get material, whatever, if I've got the job, if I'm on set, I'm not second guessing myself. I know I got the part. I don't worry, like, how am I going to get to that place emotionally, whatever. I trust that it's going to come. I do my homework. I know how to handle myself. I know how to act. But writing was kind of like, you're in a void, right? You're kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if this is any good. Like, am I going crazy? Like, I like it, but is anyone else going to like it? Does it matter if anyone else am I writing for me? Or am I writing for like the rest of the world? And like, I want to make money, so I have to kind of write for the world.
A lot of questions.
But you've
been writing since you were 14.
So many questions. Publishing was one of the hardest things I've ever done, because it really it shifted everything.
It's been so private for so long.
So private. And suddenly you've got readers, they've got expectations for your next book, or what you're going to deliver, what you're not going to deliver. You've got expectations for yourself. But then also I feel like you're sharing a part of you that the world hasn't seen, that's very intimate and personal. And you're putting it out there for strangers to judge it and talk about it on the internet or amongst themselves or whatever. And sometimes they're kind and sometimes they're not kind, and sometimes they're not kind and they tag you.
I had that experience. That was the first time. I mean, I've released books before, but not in this social media era. So when Really Love came out and they were tagging me in discussion, like, I'm fine with have your discussions. I don't need to be a part of it. You can think what you want to think about it. I don't have to be a part of it, and you don't have to DM me. Because when you, for the most part, I'm like, okay. But I remember one young woman DM'd me on the wrong day with the wrong thing, and I was like, this is the conversation. I was like, this is not okay.
I got one of those just yesterday. And sometimes I think, I'm just going to take the Meghan Markle, Michelle Obama thing. It's like, Meghan can't really say what she wants to say to certain people. Michelle can't really say. I'm just going to be one of them. I'm just going to be them. And I'm going to be like, I'm just going to let it roll off my back. And I'm happy with my life.
But the thing I always say too is like, you could never do what I do. Do you know what I mean? And this is why we're having this conversation. Like, I really appreciate again, you can have all the opinions you want about it with your friends, all on the internet. I don't need to be a part of it. But I also know, as you know, the work that was put in to make this happen. And I know that this is a specialized thing that I'm doing here.
Yeah. Very much so. And like the amount of research I do for any project, it's crazy. I mean, there are days when I might write 2 sentences and feel like, whew, that was a day, because I've like, or write 20 sentences and then delete, go back. And then now I've got my 2 sentences again. Like, there are days that are really, really hard. And I don't think people understand that. They think you're just like pulling things out of midair, and like, you've got to follow the rules of the world you've created, and it's got to resonate and mean something and sound beautiful to me. I like really elegant writing. And so I can't just say you got up and walked across the room.
Yes.
Like, it has to
yes. I feel you. It is. I am there with you. What would you tell your younger self? Who, the 14-year-old who's writing, or the law school student?
I would tell, I think my 13 or 14-year-old self would be really, really happy with how things
I love that. I love that. And lastly, what do you swear by as a honey? Can be beauty, health, routines, rituals. What's one thing that you swear by?
Exercise, like taking care of yourself. There's definitely a high from like a good run. I like to run. And I think it's one of those things that like, it helps your body to be healthy, but also helps my spirit and my soul to feel like strong and fit and like in shape.
I'm just so inspired by the adventures that you've gone on and all that like you said, you've set out to do something and you did it. So I feel very, very inspired by that. So thank you so much. Is there anything, how can the people find you? And is there anything that you want to share with us that you're excited about that we should look out for?
Look out for my next book. I don't know when it'll be out, but it's pretty much done. I mean, we've got some steps to go, but it'll be out there. Yeah. I can't say anything about it. So just look out for a book by Robinne Lee.
But the idea of you is also available. So if you have not read it, pick it up.
I don't know. I'm on Twitter, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to be there.
I love it.
I'm on Threads, but I don't even know if I can. I don't really. I'm not very good with it anymore. I'm on Instagram. I'm staying with Instagram for a while, so you can find me there, and then at Robinne Lee, ROBINNELEE, and then I'm on Facebook. You can find me there, and I've got a group for the Idea of You readers of the book on private group on Facebook. You can
wonderful. Well. Thank you so much, Robin. I am so excited and I'm so inspired and I love everything that you're doing and we're so happy and we are so proud of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Felicia. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of It's Good Over Here, a celebration of how good life can get on the other side of 40. This podcast is a Honey Child thing, so don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at It's Honey Child. Visit our website at honey-child.com and subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter, A Taste of Honey. And for bonus content and other exclusive Honey Dip stories, subscribe to our Pay What You Wish Patreon, The Honeycomb. Until next time, honeys, it's good over here. You coming? Hey, honeys. Have you signed up for our newsletter? A Taste of Honey delivers right to your inbox bi-weekly and is full of honey news, conversation, and shenanigans. Sign up now at honey-child.com. That's honey-child.com.